Hello everyone, this is Grandmaster Damian Lemos here for iChess. Welcome to this new deep dive where we'll work on the English opening. And this is just a quick introduction before we get started with the actual course. So we know as white we can start the game with e4, we can play d4, knight f3, but trust me, the English opening with c4 is not less effective. In fact, what I like about c4 is that it is quite similar to a d4 game, but the main difference is when we play c4 we have a lot of extra options. We stay flexible, and regarding the d2 pawn, sometimes we play d4, sometimes we play d3, and sometimes we just leave the pawn on d2. So in this work, in this deep dive, we'll cover every option black has. For instance, if he wants to play a King's Indian or a Grunfeld, if he wants to play e5, and this is actually a Sicilian with reversed colors, and that means as white we have a Sicilian with an extra tempi for us, and that is an advantage, of course. Now, black, he can also try transposing into a Queen's Gambit declined with e6 and d5. He can also try transposing into a Slav defense. If we play d4, then he plays d5. He can obviously play c5, and I say obviously because it is reasonable for black to go and play symmetrical chess, and we have a lot of options. I'll just say this heads up, against the symmetrical English and against the King's Indian, we'll play what we call the Botvinnik setup as white, which is doing the fianchetto on the king side, playing e4 and knight g e2. This is a flexible system as white, and the idea is to gain space on both sides of the board. And before we start studying the English, I want to say this deep dive I want to focus on ideas and positional understanding, and I think that is much better than trying to memorize complete variations, because this is a flexible opening for white, and again we want to rely on positions, understanding instead of memorizing. That is the best approach in any opening or defense you want to study. So with that said, I think we are ready to start with this course, and I'll see you in the chapters. Thank you. Okay, so let's continue working on the English defense, and this time we'll study the symmetrical variation. c4 here, one of the most logical replies black has is c5, and here we have the symmetrical variation. As white, we have a lot of ways of developing our pieces. We have a lot of systems. I like doing the fianchetto, and I like playing this move right now. I would like to play bishop g2, knight c3 to place my pawn on e4, and my knight on g1. I want to play knight e2. That is the reason why I'm not playing knight f3 here. And yes, this move, it's been played a million times, you'll find a lot of games, and the move is great. The thing is, this move is not part of our repertoire, and again, I want to play a Botvinnik system, and that is knight c3, bishop here, place my pawn on e4, and my knight to e2. And well, this is a great system, and again we rely on position understanding instead of memorizing too much. So this move is our choice, and black, usually if he plays natural moves like knight c6, if he plays the fianchetto, then we won't have many issues getting that position we want to play. But before we study this main line, we have to see what happens if he tries occupying the center and stopping our Budbinic setup. And he can try doing this. I mean, for instance, he can try d5 here. This is not a great move because we take. Now, well, he has to play queen takes d5. If he wants to play in a gambit mode, then I can even play a move like e4. And he cannot take in view of queen a4 check, and he loses a piece. So, I mean, if he plays d5, I take queen takes, I just play knight f3, and the queen is in a bad spot because I play knight c3 next, I win a tempo, and this is great for white. So, what he can try to avoid our Budbinic setup is this move knight f6. Here we'll play bishop here, and before we jump into the main line, I mean, which can be this, for instance, knight c3, bishop here, e4, Budbinic system, can also be knight c6, knight here, this, e4, we have another Budbinic system. I mean, if he doesn't occupy the center, then we'll get a Budbinic system sooner or later. But he has two systems to play a different game. One of them is d5. I mean, if he plays d5 right here, we have to take, and then we have a position which reminds me a bit of the reversed Sicilian. And he can also play e6 right here. And after knight f3, d5, and again, it is another sort of position. The Budbinic system, we cannot play it here. And regarding this move order, I would like to point out that here we play knight f3, and we don't play this move, because then after d5, he has the chance of playing a quick d4, and this knight is not in a great place. I mean, this move is going to be annoying, and if we play d4 ourselves, he takes, queen takes, knight here, then he plays d4, and we have a lot of development issues. So against this move order, we'll just play knight f3, and after d5 we take, he takes, and we play d4. There's no knight on c3, so we don't have to be concerned about him playing d4. And in this line, which is called the Tarrasch variation, we'll play against black's isolated pawn. This is something that happens from a d4 game, but here black is more or less forcing us to play this. But that's not an issue, because the Tarrasch variation is playable, but it's well known that white has an advantage, and I'll show you some ideas to have a comfortable middle game. But before we start with Tarrasch, which is e6 and d5, we'll see this move, which can also be played by Grunfeld players. Black wants to get active play from the beginning. Again, if he plays something else, then we play knight c3. Now d5 is not possible. e6 and d5 doesn't make any sense when he has the fianchetto. Not to mention we are going to play a quick e4. So if he wants to change the game, it is now or never. And now, yeah, with this introduction I made, let's start with d5. We take, knight takes, and then the simple knight c3. Here black is in a tough spot already, because he has to decide whether to play knight c7 or knight takes c3. And taking on c3, I mean, it's an easy game for us, because we open the b file. He doesn't have a piece, a minor piece on the king side. I mean, apart from his bishop f8, there's no knight f6, and here as white we have a lot of pressure on the queen side already. As you can see, he cannot play b6, we have queen a4 coming anytime soon, and another plan I like in this position, depending on what black plays of course, but I'll just show you. Imagine he plays some random move. I like playing this, Well, here we have stronger moves than the ones I'm playing, but I'm just showing a good plan I like is to play with d3. Maybe d4 is powerful as well, but we have a lot of ways of putting pressure on the queen side. Even if he plays a move like rook b8, moves like bishop f4 are powerful. And I mean, black can try playing this, but there's no point in taking on c3, especially when he played c5 already. If he had the pawn on c7, then, well, he can play c6, he can stop our bishop on g2, but here we get a lot of free play on the queen side, and black has basically nothing in return. So this game, you can check it, you'll find the game Sokolov against Siengsen, I don't know how to pronounce that, but yeah, you'll find the game by Sokolov on the database you have together with this course, and white simply got a nice advantage because black couldn't develop his queen side. So the main move is knight c7, and here we have this annoying check with queen a4. You'll see a lot of players in this position playing d3, and the idea is to start putting pressure on black's queen side with bishop b3 and rook c1. Queen b3 is another option. Attacking on b7, and after this you'll see this unexpected move. I mean, this has been played a couple of times, and yes, black has the bishop pair, but his queen side is a disaster, and we have a healthy pawn structure. This is another possibility. It is a complicated position where black's bishop pair has to be respected, but again, his pawn structure is a mess. So it's up to you. I mean, you have a lot of possibilities. I like queen a4 check because it's simple, and no matter how black covers the check, we'll have a long-term advantage. It might be slim, but it is a long-term advantage, and black, he always has to be fighting for equality. So now let's see how he can possibly cover the check. Knight c6, very bad idea. I can take, pawn takes, I can just take on c6. I mean, if queen d7, I'll trade queens off, I'll play the endgame with an extra pawn, and if bishop d7, I would just take. He has a slight compensation, but I don't think it's gonna work. That the computer gives white almost an extra point, so that's almost decisive. And if you don't want to give black a lot of counterplay, just play queen e4, get your pieces out, and you have an extra pawn. Can't be that terrible for us. So knight c6, I don't think we'll face this move, and if we do, then just take the pawn. Knight d7 is way too passive. I can play this. He still has a lot of issues moving his queen side pieces. a7 is hanging if he moves the rook. This diagonal is painful. He cannot move his pieces at all. He cannot even play e5 because we win. So maybe he has to play this. But with this low development black has, I can play d4, trying to win a pawn with d takes c5. I guess this is a nightmare for black already. Don't be surprised if the ancients are saying white is winning already, because this is what lack of development looks like. This check, bishop f4, or knight here. Here I don't want to castle kingside yet because I want to like mate him somehow or check him on d1. But yeah, the computer says this move is just winning. And yeah, he lost the right to castle. He has to deal with this diagonal with moves like knight e5, rook d1 check, the other rook goes to c1. Yeah, super tough for black to defend. and we are winning according to the ancients, but imagine for some reason we are not, well then black, he has to play accurate moves anyway, so he's likely to make a mistake and make things even easier for us. When I play chess, I try finding positions that are easy to play for me and tough to play for my opponent. And even if the computer says it's equal, I'll go for it. What matters is the practice point of view. So knight d7, uncomfortable for black. I just keep on developing my pieces and black has a stable advantage. So we can, a conclusion would be that if he covers the check with the knight, he is in a bad position. Bishop d7, well, this move, I can start with queen c4 for instance, and he's losing a pawn because he cannot protect both b7 and c5, but I think queen b3 is even better. Okay, he might have some counterplay if he plays this. I can just take on b7, he has knight here, and here just queen e4, and we are much better. We stop the check, we can continue developing our pieces. Worst case scenario, I can play king f1, and the computer also says white is much better. But queen e4 has a nice trap, because here black probably thinks bishop f5 is winning, because it's attacking our queen. If we move the queen, he has knight c2 check, but guess what? We are not losing at all. We win with queen takes f5, knight takes, bishop c6, and black has no choice but to play queen d7. And okay, here this endgame is risk-free for us. We have an extra pawn, no chance of losing this unless we make a huge mistake. So what a nice trap. I mean, a lot of black players, they probably try playing this thinking they have some compensation, and they probably miss this move. So knight c6, you can check all the analysis, but basically after both king f1 or queen e4, white has a clear advantage. And just before we close this comment, this line, bishop c6 also loses because of this, and he has to play queen d7. This is even worse because here we get the queen back and we also have an extra piece. So yeah. After queen a4 check, we probably realize the only move he has, I mean the best move he has, is queen d7. I think I forgot about the line before, I don't want to forget this. Okay, queen b3, I just said knight c6, and this move is also possible, but then I take, knight takes, and the b7 pawn is hanging, so no compensation for black. Now, yes, we can come back to the main line, which is queen d7, and here I simply like knight f3. This position, again, we are talking about a slim advantage for white, but black has to always fight for equality, and it's not simple. In the game we are following, which is Kachiev against Michalewski, two well-known grandmasters, black took on a4. And we'll see white ended up with a lot of pressure on the queen side. If he decides to play with queens on board, then, as Grandmaster Rivley says in his analysis, I can castle, he can play 5, sure. Now I have both d3 and trying to play in Sicilian mode, something like this, bishop e3, knight e4, or why not another plan you'll find in this position slot is knight d2, knight c4, and then one day I can try playing with f4 as well, trying to blow black's center. Hopefully my bishop also enters the game at some point. This is nice. But here Rivley says playing e3 for white. And I love this concept because black is down in development, and here I can try rook d1 and d4, and if I manage to open that position and black still has the king in the middle, then that is going to be much better for us. Imagine here that computer says black has to play knight e6, and nobody is going to play this move against you because he moved the knight like 3 or 4 times already. He's leaving the d5 square unprotected, and as white worst case scenario, I always have plans. And I mean, that computer insists on playing no development moves, and this has to be wrong. I mean, as white, almost every single piece is out, and black is playing as a computer, which is great for computers, but not that great for humans. So this line after queen a4, queen d7, knight f3, if for some reason he decides to play with queens on board, that's nice, we castle, and here I like this e3 idea. Or worst case scenario, d3, and we have a lot of plans. So in the game we're following Kachev against Michalewski. Black took on a4, we obviously retake, and now c5 is at risk. Black played knight d7. Knight e6 is possible too, but I think he's wasting too many moves with his knight. And here we have a game by Ivanchuk where he won in 17 moves. So let's take a look. Before he castles, he plays b3. Now we have a huge lead in development. Here, bishop a3. As you can see, c5 is suffering a lot. He cannot use bishop f8 to protect it. And this, I simply play knight e5, and I'm happy with the extra exchange. So black decided to play knight b4. Lovely move by white, king d1. And, well, as the say goes, one mistake is followed by another one. Maybe black missed this knight b6, I don't know. But what I do know is that we have a lot of ideas, like taking on c5 and then we take on b4. That is an extra pawn for us. I also know that this is too risky because this diagonal is open. And, well, black has basically no moves. Maybe knight a6. This is the only move black has not to lose a pawn. But yeah, rook c1. And I think that pawn is gone. If b6, I have knight e5, that's game over. And yeah, if something else, I just take on c5. So okay, this move, not a good idea, weakens the queen side too much. That is the only way he can avoid losing a pawn. So knight b6, rook b8. Ivanchuk decides to take, but this move was also powerful. We start smelling black can lose a piece in this position, but well, Ivanchuk took the bishop pair, and the thing is, we have another knight going to b6. Black has to play that move, knight c4. What a nightmare for black this game is. I mean, bishop b2. He cannot even move his knight on b4. He plays knight d8, bishop here, and black resigns. He cannot move the rook to c8 in view of knight takes b6. These two squares are covered, and well, he basically loses material. He has to play rook b7, but okay, this has to be completely lost, and black resigns. This happened in a game between strong grandmasters. So here we see this line, even in the queenless position, there's a lot of danger for black. And knight e6, that has to be a mistake because black's pieces are not coordinated at all. This bishop cannot move. Bishop on c8, as usual, is tied up to a queenside defense. So, and yeah, also Ivanchuk played excellent chess starting from this position onwards. b3, bishop a3, king d1, that was awesome. But in this game, black plays knight d7, which looks like an improvement. This reminds me of the knight d7 line where black has the queen on d8. he still has issues to finish his development properly. This diagonal is a nightmare, and okay, in this game he plays e5. Maybe e6 looks more solid, but here I can just castle, or bishop d2. This looks so accurate. I stop bishop b4 and I prepare rook c1, and black is in bad shape. It's like his queenside, his entire queenside is dead. So he plays e5, knight b3. I like what black did in this game, trying to develop as soon as possible to trade a couple of pieces off, but still he has issues because of this well-known stuff on the queen side. And king takes d2. Love this move as well. There's no point in taking with the knight. It is an endgame, queen-less position, so we take with the king. And here black played knight b6. He can try something else, but rook c1 is coming, even rook d1. And if he moves this knight, I can even consider knight c5. And again, he's suffering because of this diagonal and his weak queenside. Black played knight b6. And white ignores the threat and plays rook hc1. Of course, if we take, we still have a risk-free endgame. We have nothing to lose, and we can try exploiting black's weaknesses. But white, I think he was inspired when he played this game. Now, if he takes on a4, I mean, we have a rook on the seventh rank, a lot of attack. I don't think he can even take on b2 because that knight is so easy to trap. And that's it. So after rook hc1, black played knight e6. Again, we can take on b6 and we have a nice advantage, but white prefers playing with activity, trying to target black's most passive pieces. And I would say here white's advantage is clear. In worst case scenario, we are talking about a risk-free position for us, and black still with a lot of issues to solve, like the advance of the a-pawn, how to unfold his position. I mean, black has no way of finishing his development. For instance, if he takes, well, knight takes is great, but also rook takes, trying to take this pawn, and also rook c7. I mean, I have so many threats. I don't see how he can possibly develop that bishop. And after rook b8, which is what black played, the nightmare continues. He takes, rook takes, f6. And what ended up happening in this game is that white took full control of the 7th rank, and black is still fighting to get his pieces out. You can check the entire game, it is instructive, you'll learn a lot of strategy as well, but this shows how dangerous this line is for black. A single detail like his weak queenside can be enough to lose, and yeah, in fact in this game what happened is that black lost the b7 pawn. There was nothing he can do to protect b7, and then he lost the endgame being down a pawn. So very instructive line. Apart from theory, we can learn a lot of strategy, and that is a great thing about the English. You'll definitely become a much better positional player. So that's all for this video. I hope you found this useful. I hope you could learn something, and of course, I want to see you guys in my next chapters. Thank you.